So I think you're both prescriptively in the same place, right? In the long run, more regulation to the point of maybe even socialization of some of the savings, maybe banking functions. And the thing that, and I really liked your comment about the increase in the savings rate being driven by the wealth, because here's my question in the interim, because I'm so concerned about government taking action along the lines of your prescription that monetary policy is pushing interest rates and return rates and saving for the middle class and the working class who don't have access to investment in the stock market, et cetera, to almost nothing. My mom was looking at bond return rates, and I'm just worried that there's such a disincentive for saving versus consuming in the short run, because it's very hard for the bulk developer in this country to attain any type of matching of inflation in terms of incentive to savings. So I just don't know, where we go from that perspective, thinking about savings while we await the government stepping in as a white knight.
Can I speak?
Sure.
Yeah. I'm not sure I believe in the socialization of saving, per se. I was talking about the socialization of consumption, and of course I wasn't talking about the total socialization. I just said, I think we need public transportation, national health care, and affordable education, which are things that are not unattainable, and we used to attain them. And other, every time I travel abroad, I go between Japan and Europe, and I call it the country of not America, because they have fast, attractive trains, national health care, all these things that we say are impossible to do in America. Okay, so that's, now, on the interest rates, you're right. It's very discouraging to have low interest rates. As you know, we have a dilemma now, and you need low interest rates to stimulate the economy. If we raised interest rates right now, I don't think that would have a very constructive impact on our economy. I suspect Jim agrees with me in that sense. I'm a Keynesian. It's also interesting, it's not going to make you feel any better, but that around the world, there's actually very little correlation between how much people save and what the interest rates are. That interest rates are actually quite good here in the 1990s, and nobody saved. In Japan, with the bubble burst there in the early 90s, interest rates went to zero. People kept saving like crazy. And now interest rates are zero here. And while Americans are not fantastic savers, as I said, we're saving more than we did when interest rates were high. So, why is this? Well, I think you know why it is. Any saver knows why it is. Where else are you going to put your money? You could put it in more into your home. But home values have, bounced around, and generally they've been even, gone down since 2008. Maybe they're going up right now, but it's been uncertain. So you can actually lose money by putting money into your home. And Jim just said that a few minutes ago. You can put it into the stock market. The future of the stock market is very uncertain. These platitudes that in the long run you're always great with stocks. Ben Bernanke says it. But most people don't have 30 or 40-year horizons, and the next 30 years may not be so great. Who knows? So people have actually saved at no interest rate because it's better to have your principal or maybe a slight diminution for inflation than to have it go down 30% in a house or 20% in the stock market. You don't know. It's not going to make you feel any better, but that's why people often save even when interest rates are very low.
Okay, as we close, I want to just ask each of you this question. Shell is hard at work at his desk. You're kicking back open another bottle of wine. Screw work. How did I know this was coming? And the phone rings, and it's President Obama. And he says, please get on the next train to Washington because you and me and the top leaders in Congress are going to sit and discuss how to get out of this mess we're in. And you are going to be our principal advisor. And while you're on the train, or bicycling up, or whatever it is. I want you to give me, and please don't speak in academic-y, speak in simple, politician-type sentences. Give me 3 or 4, however many you want, under 10, things that we should do now to make things better. Give me an agenda.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay, the first thing we do is raise marginal tax rates on corporations. And that's a beginning towards a transfer of income away from capital towards labor. That is, by the way, not some radical idea. We've been transferring income away from consumption towards saving and investment, away from labor towards capital, away from us towards corporations. We've been doing this since 1981 with the Reagan tax breaks. It has ruined the economy. It's time to stop. So we start by raising
Capital gains.
Yep. We can raise rates on capital gains too. All right, that's a step. That's a first step. Second step is let's do what John Kerry proposed about 18 months ago. Let's build ourselves an infrastructure bank. Let's do what Americans are really good at, and that is mixing private enterprise and public enterprise. Let's have matching grants for infrastructure building because we really, really need it. And this is a way of maybe surreptitiously socializing the transportation system in a way that would make it a great deal more energy efficient and a great deal more efficient in every other way. Could be, the next step would be to say, all right, what does government spending actually do? Let's actually look at the national income and product accounts and say, what does it do? What is it for? Infrastructure aside, how does it work? If we are in fact if households are in fact spending 20%, let me start. If 20% of the income of all households in the United States comes from government transfer payments, let's now talk about what government does. How does government create jobs? How does government drive employment? As of 1980, you might want to know, about 33% of the labor force was employed either directly or indirectly by government, state, local, and federal. Under George W. Bush, by the way, the second Bush, the federal direct employment figure rose from 18 to 19.1, 19.2% of the total labor force. Okay? So 1 out of every 5 people in this country is working directly for government. Right? In fact, state and local government, that was the fastest growing source of employment after 1945. Let's ask them, what can government do better? How do we take, how do we make taxes actually work? How do we make government spending work? Let's not, in other words, take government spending, let's treat it as something that diminishes growth, but in fact contributes to growth. Because again, if you actually look at the national income and product accounts, what you'll find is the largest component of so-called investment is government spending. So that would be the first 3 steps.
3 or 4 things.
Yeah.
Okay, Sheldon.
Well, I would start with a lot of the things that Jim just proposed. I mean, the infrastructure is very important. Jim in his book talks about surplus capital as the culprit. Well, surplus capital was a problem in the United States, but in places like Germany, a lot of the capital was actually productively invested in infrastructure, and there is a lot we need to do in infrastructure. And this has it's not socialism, it has a great impact on the private sector, on the construction industry, and all sorts of things. And it helps us build a better infrastructure. I mean, if workers can get around cheaply, that adds to labor mobility, that's good for business. If people are better educated, that clearly benefits our society. So there are these clear needs, and I would probably join him. He didn't quite complete his sentence, but if I was in charge of job creation, I think the last thing I would do would be fire public sector workers. This has been, I think, a catastrophe for our current slump. But then I would go further. I would go further, and I would also think about saving in credit. These may seem obscure to many, but we need to realize that if you are poor, even lower middle class in this country, you don't have the sort of financial access that many of us who are more affluent have. About 25% of lowest income people are unbanked. They have no saving or checking account. They have to go to check cashing services. They get preyed upon by payday lenders. And it's even a higher percentage when you look at the underbanked. In other words, people are being fleeced by high minimum balances and overdraft fees and lots of things that have turned out to be quite predatory. So we need to come up with better institutions for financial access, not just for saving, but for reasonable forms of credit, because lower income and middle income people need credit. They can't get it for free, obviously, but they don't have to get it for the predatory rates that have happened because they have had so little financial access. We are starting to move tentatively, not fast enough, on the regulation of consumer finance. We have a new Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It's actually quite impressive. A lot of people on Wall Street don't like it, and that, to me, is actually meaningful. That means it must be doing something. But clearly, we need to advance affordable types of credit, but we really need to curb predatory lending. This was a huge problem in our society. So these were the things I would do in addition to stimulating infrastructure and the general stimulation of the economy.
Well, thank you both. Much appreciated. Thank you.